This is Shantae for the Game Boy Color. It was developed by WayForward, and if you notice the copyright of all things, it was in development for quite a while and went through quite a few changes before finally settling on the Game Boy Color, and consequently it was one of the final Game Boy Color games released. It also took another 8 years for the game to actually get a sequel, though that being said, if you know Shantae, you probably know it through the most recent entry in the series, Half Genie Hero, and considering how beloved that game is, I think Shantae is doing just fine. That being said, as the first game in the series, gameplay-wise, it's a little dated. That being said, though, it's still an extremely charming game, and on a technical level, it's actually really impressive. I mean, I know it's one of the last games on the Game Boy Color, so you would expect some good quality, but it's still a really good looking game. Look at that, it's the file select screen and it looks that good. And we start off with a nice, simple scene. Wonder what country that flag represents, though. Looks kinda weird. Oh, pirates. So if there's one thing I really appreciate about Shantae's sprite in this game, it's the fact that she looks done with basically everything. And I love that fist shaking right there, very good animation. So, I also like Shantae's slow walk, but this is neither the time nor place. They're kinda firing cannonballs at us. So, for the first segment in this game, this can actually be pretty tricky. The cannonballs kinda come out of nowhere, and I'm fairly certain they're randomized. They can also break the ground as well, though you usually don't have to worry about that if you hurry up. But if you rush too much, you might just run headfirst into a cannonball, which, trust me, I had quite a few takes in this segment. It's, like I said, really difficult. Was not easy to do that without getting hits. Oh, an actual person was in there. That must have been highly uncomfortable. Oh, that's quite alright. Hey! So yeah, Shantae is the guardian of this town, which is named Scuttle Town. And, seems like a bit of a danger she might want to protect it from. Yeah, nobody leaps out of a cannonball with good intentions. Seems as good an idea as any. Don't want to lose that payroll. Alright, so, at the moment, Shantae's moveset's fairly basic. You can jump, and you have that hair whip attack. You can also run if you hold the B button down, and of course, that's your attack button as well, so if you need to fight something, maybe slow down a bit and stop before jumping up and hair whipping it. These guys are going to throw dynamite, which I run into a lot. If there's one thing you need to know about this playthrough is, it takes a lot of takes. Shantae's not exactly the easiest game, and I don't exactly think it's really the best designed one. Like, I don't know if it was intentional, but a lot of this game's difficulty stems from things kind of just like running into you with very little actual chance to dodge it. It's a whole lot of surprise attacks. You gotta have a really good reaction time, and mine's not always the best. So anyway, Scuttletown's currently on fire. Apparently it does this a lot. Risky Boots is rather fond of the burning before pillaging, it seems. Thankfully, doesn't really seem like there are any fire obstacles around here. Just more Tinkerbats, Tinkerbats, whatever you guys are called. They die in one hit, but also, once they start running, they're kind of a nuisance. Again, they don't do that much damage, but when they go for the shins, it's really hard to avoid them. So this game's got a day and night cycle, which you won't know from this initial segment. All of these scene changes are scripted, of course, but damn, it's a really good example of how well this game does lighting, quote-unquote, because, you know, it's a sprite game on the Game Boy Color. It's not like actual lighting changes, it's just really good sprite work. And honestly, those cannons back there, probably one of the easier obstacles to dodge. I don't think those ever hit me. Well, that was just unnecessary. Well, I'm glad you're okay after having a house crumbled on your head. So, this is Mimic. He's a bit of an engineer. Builds some stuff. They might have just stolen a thing he built. Also, I do adore this little animation right here. Had a house crash down on his head, he's really more upset than injured. He's just gonna rant and rave like that. He is throwing his arms in the air, but it's because he does care rather than a lack of caring. You stay put and just keep shouting. Oh, no, he stopped. Oh well. These platforms right here crumble when you stand on them. They don't immediately crumble, though, so they're not like Mario donut blocks or anything. You have to actively stand on them. So yeah, we're actually almost at the end of this, and wow, apparently night doesn't last too long around here. And that was a pretty sweet dodge. It's like I fucked that up repeatedly, and eventually got, we'll say, good at it. Also, good to note, slopes, they're fuckers. They can really screw you over. You say far enough, I feel it's too far. She is laying lazily on her own ship. I would have preferred her to be a little bit closer, you know, maybe not be on her home base / escape method. Does make our whole defeating her and getting that thing back a little more difficult. How dare you not follow the laws of the sea? It's simultaneously lawless, but it has all of them. All the laws. They knew exactly what they were doing when they were writing this. Alright, so first boss. This really isn't too bad. First things first, that cannon will fire 3 shots. Each one gets wider arcs. After that, 2 Tinkerbots will be sent out, and you have to attack that little barrel of explosive powder of some type. It's honestly really not too bad. You can actually, yeah, do that. You can clear that section of the fight in 2 cycles, as long as you know the explosives are there. This one, a random Tinkerbot will come out and try to throw explosives. Just hit the explosives in their hands before they throw it, and, well, things don't go too well for them. And eventually, each one has a set amount of health. Which one's gonna go down first? I don't know. Like I said, it's random. They don't follow a pattern. Oh yeah, and of course this should go without saying, but falling into the water is a one-hit kill, and as you can see, this game does have lives, which feels kind of unnecessary, but whatever. It is the Game Boy Color, they did that sometimes. Well, maybe we'll get lucky and High Tide will come in before they can repair the ship. Then the pirate problem is dealt with. Also, I adore all these sprites. They're so good. That's the mayor right there. He approached us. Pretty good sprite, but the background characters are real good. Old lady, good. Kid behind her, good. Big shirtless dude, good. Ditto Shantae, yeah, dig her. Fucking Gray from Fire Emblem Echoes over there, yeah, great sprite. These are all fantastic. I love these. Oh, and I guess this is also important to note, but while they did hire a genie as the town's guardian, as it turns out, Shantae's only a half genie, and she hasn't told anyone. It's important information considering genies are all-powerful, and half genies, I mean, they're magical, but Shantae herself is a little limited at this point. I mean, she won't use the engine to destroy Scuttle Town. She's going to use it to power the ship that's going to destroy it. Or maybe she'll introduce a steampunk style and destroy Scuttle Town like that. I don't know. I don't know her plans. Oh good. Just say that out loud so that if we fuck up, nobody blames the fact that Shantae's a half genie. Oh yeah, Mimic also goes on digs himself. I kinda forgot about that. Sometimes he builds, sometimes he explores. Sometimes he builds based on things he finds. And of course, this being a fantasy story, the old civilization is actually extremely advanced. Or at least advanced enough to have a steam-powered engine, which by Sequinland standards, which, by the way, that's the world we're in, and the land Scuttle Town is in, I mean, that should be obvious. It's kinda how towns and countries work, but anyway, steam-powered engines might be pretty good by Sequinland's standards, is what I'm trying to say when I don't point out the obvious. Well, insofar as her boat's on the water, which might lead to a town with water, sure, let's go with that. Just make sure you visit the save room! Oh yeah, and fun fact, you have to exit through the left. I didn't, so I did have to do a retake, in which I did go to the right instead of the left. Thankfully I saved right before that conversation started. Anyway though, yes, we are in our first town, which is Scuttle Town. That should be obvious by this point. You can talk to the villagers as they go by pressing B. We're not going to be entering dance mode for quite a while. I mean, we could, but it doesn't really do much of anything at the moment. Other than dancing. We can dance for our own amusement, but we do have things to do, so maybe we'll save that until we get the actual magical properties. Oh, so that's common knowledge, huh? I can't tell if that makes Shantae's position better or worse. So this is something we're not going to be seeing just yet, but it is a way to grind money. Gems or money, just FYI. You can only do the dancing minigame at night, however, and it's day. Too bad nighttime was only like 3 minutes long. Oh, thank goodness, somebody who points out the obvious more than I do. I needed that. Kid, are you alright? Your eyes are a little misaligned. Is your face melting? Alright, good to know. We can go to the dance parlor at night to earn money, but if we're not at the dance parlor at night, monsters are a lot stronger. You might have been able to guess, but we don't typically want that. We don't want to be outside on a horrible night when we're cursed. It's usually a bad idea. Alright, so I think we've talked to everyone? Alright, so let's actually check out the buildings. Just press up in front of them and you'll enter them. Dance parlor, of course, is useless, as we've heard. You can't do this until night. That being said, I will need to money grind because there's some expensive items in the game, so we'll be seeing the dance parlor eventually. Next off is the Warp Squid Hut. It's a very interesting creature. Its purpose will become obvious later, but at the moment we only have the mommy Warp Squid. She lost all her babies, all 4 of them. It'll start to get more obvious once we reach the next town. Not the biggest fan of the Warp Squids, but that's a story for another day. Bathhouse. This, of course, is our healing point in the game. Of course, we're not injured at the moment, so all we can do is just sit in the bath. But if you ever need healing, and trust me, you probably will, if you don't bash your head against the wall doing retakes because you don't like making stupid mistakes and you feel all your mistakes are stupid, that's where you go when you get to town after not dying out in the world. The item shop should be self-explanatory. It sells items. So some of these items are maybe not required, but if you want to get 100%, you need some of the attack items. You never need one of the vials. Basically, these are just healing items that become more powerful for every incremental version. Vanish Cream turns Shantae invisible. This, I think, just strikes the enemies with lightning. This is sort of like a Mega Man shield type thing, where it's a shield that attacks you. I'll read the list off later, but I think I wrote down what items you need to get 100%, and I think the Vanish Cream's one of them. I don't think you need any of the rest, though. Which is good, because I don't like spending my money on this game, because there are far more expensive items. So, this, of course, is the save room. This is where you go to save. Always make sure to save before you move on, because you never know when you might die. Or maybe you do. It's a lot. It's most of the time in this game. So, that's it for Shantae. Next time, we head out to Watertown.